Hey, everybody. Thank y'all for tuning in to the Floor Masters podcast. I am your host, Anthony Moses, the owner of Simply Intricate Designs, the number one flooring contractor at Baton Rouge. And you are tuned in to an amazing show with an amazing guest, amazing topic, something that you can learn from, that you can take with your company and run with it. And we are totally excited. I love doing these live episodes. I'm looking for all kinds of engagement on this show. Um, so y'all grab some popcorn, grab some pens, papers. Be ready for an amazing podcast episode on the Floor Masters podcast. Hey, everybody. Thank y'all for tuning in to the Floor Master Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Moses, the owner of Simply Intricate Designs, the number one flooring contractor in Baton Rouge, and this is the Floor Master Podcast, the live episode recording this Thursday. And the topic tonight is, are you efficient? Are you effective? There's a difference. Both are good. Do you know the difference? If you don't, my guest is going to teach you all about the ins and outs of it. Before we get into this episode, we want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, the National Tile Contractor Association. I love the NTCA because it's an organization that's strictly about educating, providing resources for tile contractors in the tile industry to make the industry better, to make brands better, to make companies better, to make installations better. NTCA provides all type of resources, tons of things. There's a list of things. I think there's over 1,500 members in the National Tile Contractor Association. If you're not familiar with them, not associated with them, take some time today and go become a member. You will definitely benefit from it from day one. Our second sponsor is Go Board from Johns Mansville. Go Board is a innovative tile bagger board that is lightweight, it's easy to cut, it's waterproof, and the price point on Go Board is amazing. I can't stress that enough. The price point on a Go Board is amazing. It's sturdy, it's durable, and the best part about it is it does not require banding. You do not have to band it. There's tons of sealants. Although that Go Board provides approved sealant that they sell, they don't beat you over the head to make you use their products. There is at least 6 approved sealants that you can grab if the Go Board sealant isn't available to you. So if you're not familiar with Go Board, go check them out. Now let's hop into this show, hop into this guest. Our guest today on the Floor Master Podcast is the one and the only Oliver Ledbetter of Little Tall Guy. Oliver, thank you for coming on the show. Please do me a favor. Tell everybody who you are, what you do, where you do it, how you do it, why you do it, when you do it, and all that good stuff.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. I operate Little Tile Guy in Western North Carolina with my wife, Brianna. I started my company back in 2010, and it became Little Tile Guy in 2012. So I've been running it since then. Me and my wife got married in 2018, and we've been doing it together since then. We work together, just the two of us, full time for our company. I've been doing tile my entire professional life. That's my first job, other than working with my dad when I was a kid, was into tile, and I've never done anything else really. So I've been doing it for almost 17 years now. So professionally for a little less than that.
That explains why you're so good.
Well, we all have improvements to make, right? But I do love the trade very much. I love what I do.
Also humble. He's so humble.
I hope that come across, yeah.
That's not common that you hear people say that tile was their first job. You know, we start out other places and we end up in the tile trade, but that's unique that tile was your first professional job.
It was, yeah. I was working with my dad, and I was too young to have a normal job back then, but he went out to lunch with one of his friends who was a tile contractor in the area. And I tagged along for lunch that day. I was fresh off my permit. And his friend ended up asking me if I wanted to drive him around for the afternoon, dropping off tile, and he was making his phone calls. So I went to work that afternoon and never stopped.
What was it about tile that got you locked in? Because a lot of people don't make it past those first few days.
I did love to work hard. Like I unloaded trucks for those first few weeks, and I was hooked. Yeah, I just wanted to work, and I wanted to make money. There wasn't a lot of ways for someone 15 years old to make good money, and the guy that I started working for was an excellent guy. We're still very close friends to this day, and he really showed me how cool it could be to be in a trade like tile, just to be proficient at it and to master a trade like that. I enjoyed working with him and his team so much that, yeah, I went to work that afternoon and then showed up the next morning, and I kept working with him until he started hiring subcontractors instead. And so I started my own business so that I could become a subcontractor under him. And then I branched out on my own a little bit after that.
So how long did you work for him before you started your own?
Probably 3 or 4 years, maybe a little bit more than that. You spend your first year or two learning a lot, and then you need to give back. You need to stay around long enough to make them some money. When someone offers you that chance to learn as part of their crew, you got to stick around long enough to make them some money too. So I worked for him for a little while, and even after I started my own company, I still subbed all of my work from him for quite a while before there was enough work to go around that I started taking on side jobs as well, and then that just grew into me having enough work to do on my own. He still operates his company as well, and we've stayed friendly competition. Even though I did run my company in another state for a while, so I moved away and came back.
What was that transition like from being under somebody to starting for yourself? Did you learn a lot more once you were on your own?
Yeah. I think we all have our ways of doing things, and he had some crews that were turning out some really good work. I was pretty focused on staying clean. I've always wanted to be super clean when I worked, and I was a helper for one of his installers for a good 2 years. The first 2 years I was working, so I wasn't really setting on my own. I was just helping him, and then I started being the installer instead. And it was just kind of a gradual progression through all of that, and it got to a point where it had grew to something that I could stop taking jobs from anybody I wanted to and focus on what I wanted to do, and that's how I ended up being full-time on my own. So it was slow enough that there wasn't any really big jump into the deep end moment for me, because I always could have had work if I had asked for some, but there was enough work to go around. There still is too. There's a lot of tile work getting done in the area where we live.
It's a lot of tile work getting done everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's just construction work.
It's a crazy time to be in the trades, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely different from a year ago.
Yeah.
It's been nonstop.
Yeah, and all that process for me, I started my company in 2008 when I first started having my own name so I could sub for him, and so that was a weird time too, 2008, 2009. And so I've seen it change in and out quite a bit since then. And this has definitely been a weird chapter in construction.
So I'm gonna ask the question because I'm not sure if anybody else knows, but I know I don't know the name Little Tall Guy. Please help me understand.
Okay, so when I started my company, I had a really cool name that I was really into. It was called In Style, and style was spelled with a big Tile.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pretty proud of that. It was catchy and it was clean, and no matter what I did, I could not get anybody to use that name because I had started at 15 years old, with that crew. I was the little tile guy. And no matter what I tried to do to change it, that's what I would overhear builders and homeowners, out in the other room, and is a little towel guy here, like that. That's how they referred to me, and it became a joke and a nickname, and then just snowballed into me giving up on fighting it. And in 2012, I just went officially little towel guy. It's what people were going to call me either way. So
you changed the company name?
I did. It was relatively unofficial. It was more of a DBA early on. But when I went full LLC on my own, I just ended up going with little towel guy because I felt like it was a losing battle to pick anything else. I'm not very tall, just in case there's anybody that knows me. I'm only 5'5", so the little towel guy is a nickname that was made up by everyone else, not by me.
Right. Did you see like a change? I'm big on branding. So as far as embracing that, did you see like that impact your business?
Yeah, I think people sometimes pick us out of a list, especially now that we're more established, where we're in the top of the list for searches in our area. I think the name catches some eyes. And then people meet me and they get a smile out of it because they put it together. They realize where it's come from. So yeah, it's memorable, and it tells a story on its own, which is, if you can do those two things with branding, get people to remember it and tie it to you specifically, then I feel like it's accomplished its goal. So I have fun with it. I know I'm small. I've gotten this far with it, and it usually gets a smile and people remember it. So that's the purpose of branding in the first place.
Hey, as long as you're getting the job done.
Yeah.
I'm going to regret saying this, but size does not matter. That's horrible. But I really.
Hey, sometimes the tile trade can be kind of rough on the tall folks.
Oh no, trust me.
Yeah. So
people, but picking up tile and moving it either for flooring or from walls, yeah, it's taxing on the back. So let's hop into our topic for today.
All right.
Now, when we talked previously, my mindset was strictly to talk about efficiency, and you got me to do 180 and make sure that we don't confuse being efficient with being effective. Neither one is better than the other, but it needs to be understood which avenue we're trying to go down. So do us a favor and break down your opinion on the difference between efficiency and effectiveness.
All right. Well, it was the first thing that I thought of when you told me you wanted to talk about efficiency as this, the topic for this show. And just to get it out, first of all, it's not as if I'm some expert in this. I work on this all the time. And a lot of this is based on books that I've read on business, and there's a couple of authors that have really weighed heavily into this, but it's something that I've really used in my own business. So when you asked me if there was something that I would share on that topic, this is what I came up with. So the main thing that I wanted to talk about with that is that it's very easy to just figure those two words are different ways of saying the same thing. If we use efficient or effective, it all means success or productivity. It's the same thing. But with the English language, we have separate words for every nuance of meaning. So they're not the same word by definition. They mean something different. So to make it as simple as possible, efficiency is based on how we're doing something, whereas effectiveness is based on what we're choosing to do in the first place. So efficiency is the how, effective is the what. What are we doing? And so when we look at efficiency, we're talking about doing more with less, keeping our overhead minimal, making sure we're not wasting time or any other resource. That's all doing something effectively, is bringing in all those elements. But if we're looking at whether or not we're being effective, it's about, should I do this at all? Is this a good decision for me? Is it a good decision for my company? Is it going to be productive? And ultimately, it has to do with, am I going to succeed in achieving my goal? And the reason why in business, a lot of research that I've done on this subject, they separate that so heavily, is that we have a lot of examples that show that chasing efficiency can really borderline on counterproductivity. It can really drag us down,
Yeah.
and it rides a fine line with being counterproductive. And so none of us want to deal with that. And I think why it comes up so often is we think of efficiency most of the time when we wish we had more of it. We don't really ever look at ourselves and like, oh, I did that very efficiently. Usually when we think of the word efficient in a sentence, it's I need to be more efficient. That's almost always when we use that word.
Right.
Because we're feeling overwhelmed. We feel like we don't have enough time to implement our plans properly. We feel like we're in a constant battle with this is important, but this is more urgent. So I've got to prioritize and I don't have time to do both. So I have to do this one. And we just end up week in and week out. That's our mental mindset, is what has to happen today and what can wait till tomorrow. And we end up with that overwhelmed feeling. And then we can't add more time. So instead we convince ourselves, well, I have to be more efficient. I need to find a way to do more in the time I already have. I need to be faster. I need to be cleaner. I need to get my guys to work together more seamlessly. I need to have things more ready for each job so that we can dive right in. And I do this all the time myself. It's just this constant spinning in your head. Like, did I miss something? Am I going to miss something? Did I plan this well enough? Do I have time to do this properly? And so that's when we bring in that subject of efficiency. It's just it's constantly a source of stress. I need to be more efficient. But one of the examples that I've heard used to illustrate this problem is one that I mentioned to you. This was in a book about bigger business, which a lot of us run smaller businesses, but it translates so well. It was an author by the name of Edward Tenner, I think. He wrote a book about the problems with big business and all the data they collect, and how it can really just bog them down, the amount of time they devote to trying to find efficiency. And when you get into these huge scale businesses, and one of the examples that he used was an artillery weapon that was created for World War I by the French, and it could do something that no other weapon of the time had been able to do, and that is it could reset itself to fire again without having to be re-aimed. So it accepted its own recoil. It was called hydropneumatic recoil, something like that. So it was the first time ever that a big gun like that could be fired and then refired without having to re-aim it. And it just drastically increased the efficiency for using it. But when they brought that weapon into World War I, this super efficient killing machine, they ran into a problem because the Germans had one. They had developed their own version of this. So this was an incredibly efficient machine, but because its goal was to end World War I before it got started, instead of that, it ended up locking both sides into this huge drawn-out trench warfare period where neither one could make any progress. And instead of shortening the war, it made it last way longer. So this is just an example that's used to show that something can be very efficient, but if it doesn't accomplish the goal that we had for it, then it's completely ineffective. It's not successful. It's not productive. And there's so many different lessons that we can, a different history that you can look at to prove that point over and over, that as humans and as business owners, we feel this pressure to be more efficient, but sometimes just searching for efficiency can take us down such a path that we end up just losing time over it, and we haven't actually accomplished anything productive. So I try to think about that when we make our plans, and what am I actually trying to accomplish for our business? Is this a good decision, or am I going to spend so much time trying to be efficient at this that it might even be better not to do it in the first place?
That makes me think about myself, because like many of us, you're in the moment on a project or on an installation, and that thought comes up of, I need to be able to do this better and faster,
Mm-hmm.
because I want to be at this milestone on the project quicker than I'm getting there. And you'll think, what tool can I get, or what product can I use? How can I make this thing speed up? But then you have to go through the series of testing periods to say, okay, when I have to spend money to get this tool to see if it's going to speed my project up, or I have to spend money to get this product to see if it's going to speed my project up. And by the time you end up doing this, now you've taken 2, 3 steps back. It may not be as effective as you want it to be. I I,
Yeah.
I use my example with my lady creek shower. Me being a firefighter, I'm always thinking of I need to be done way faster than this. But the reality of it is, I just don't have as much time as a full time tile installer. So I'm always thinking, what system can I use? What product can I use to speed this up? Do I need to get the IQ saw? I need to change this setup. Like, what do I need to do to become faster? And I looked at trying out the Ladder Creek products. So I told my rep, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm trying to get done. This is how much time I have. I want to use your product, so because I'm expecting it to be faster. It turned out not to be, because the method that we went down using was the banding method. I'm just not fast at banding. Now, had I told my rep that, hey man, look, I just want to make sure that this is properly done and ready for tile as soon as possible. It doesn't have to be done like yesterday. It, I don't have to do it faster than I'm normally doing it. I just need to know a system that's going to work that I can incorporate and continue incorporating. So now I'm being effective. That wasn't my mindset. So it's a perfect example for me that I took 3 steps back trying to get 2 steps ahead.
Yeah, yeah, and I do it myself as well. It's very easy for me to say this, but I constantly have to remind myself, because I do the exact same thing, and we do it so quickly sometimes that we don't even give ourselves that testing period. We're like already on to the next thing, and like you found, maybe that method that you used works great for someone else. Maybe that's their preferred way of doing it. But if it's not accomplishing the goal that you set out for it, then it's not being effective, no matter how efficient it may be.
And see,
And
that's the thing about it. That's the thing about it. It was very effective. When I posted pictures, people were like, "It's definitely not gonna leak," which is what I want. That's my goal. I do not want this shower to leak because I tore it out because it leaked. So effectiveness, it was 100%. But my mind was set on being efficient, and all I could see was the efficient part of it. But I was overlooking the effectiveness. Like, dude, this is a solid installation. It's a solid shower, but you just want it done fast.
right.
Is that the important part? Because we're here to make sure that this doesn't ever happen to this customer again.
Yeah, that's a really good way to illustrate it. That example fits really well. Just that, almost like you can't even enjoy the fact that you really built that solid shower. Now that customer never has to worry about a leaking shower again. But that was lost on you because you were wishing it was done faster and it took you too long. So now you take that pressure on yourself. And it's something that I think all of us do a lot, especially if a lot of us that run our own company, we have that personality type. That's why we have our own company.
Yeah.
That I always want to improve. I always want to be better. And in that way, like you said at the very beginning, it's not that we're saying efficiency is counterproductive. We need to be efficient. We need to make sure we're not wasting time, wasting materials. If we can do more with what we have without having to lose something for it, that just makes sense. It's a good business practice. But it's more just the mindset or the search for just that one more step towards more efficiency that we just never give ourselves a break from, to make sure that, are we accomplishing what we wanted to be in the first place? And if we are, then maybe we need to take a look at what's causing that to be the case, that we are being effective, we are succeeding, and focus on that for a while instead of trying to improve it by more efficiency. Is there possible that we could take some of that time and just take it to look at what we're doing instead of how we're doing it. Is there something that we just don't need to do at all? Is there something we're not doing that we really wish we were, but we're not giving ourselves time to do it? I do that to myself all the time. Like, this is how I want to do this, but I haven't given myself enough time to do it. So now I got to find another way
Right.
that's going to get this done faster, but still be okay. And oftentimes I think the only one that puts that pressure on us is us. And that's why I try and keep this. I have this little note on my desk that says efficiency versus effectiveness, just so that I remember to think about this when I'm feeling that overwhelmed feeling like I just don't have enough time. And I get after myself for it.
Now, I would have to disagree that the only person that puts the pressure on us is us, because there are some installers or some companies that are working as subcontracts. We got a lot of people out there. They work for the stores. They're working for builders, and the pressure is there before the job starts.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, I'm ignorant of that, I guess, being, by myself. I'm the one that I'm at the top of the company. I don't have anybody but myself putting all this pressure on. But it's a good point that if you're working for someone else that's pushing you to be faster or more efficient all the time, and that pressure, that's a hard way to start a project if you already feel that behind you.
I'm in the same boat with you. I'm the one doing the job from start to finish. I would be the one bringing in subs. So the pressure that's being applied is from me.
Yeah, that's where I am. But I see your point though. Yeah, if the more people you have, the more important all of this becomes to make everybody work together.
So let me ask you this: what is your standpoint on working as a sub? I know you do a lot of your projects, and you probably have a pipeline that's filled up enough where you don't need it. But what has been your experience? Do you bid jobs for other contractors, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, we do take some jobs from other contractors. That, like I've mentioned earlier, the gentleman that I started with, he still works in my area. He has a larger company. We have branched into slightly different markets, and we trade work back and forth. We have so much work in this area that there's no need for us to be, seriously competitive. We're very friendly, competitive, and so we take some work from him. We do have builders that we work for more often, and so we'll bid jobs for them as they come up. And I think just maintaining control, make sure that someone else's pressure doesn't end up getting brought into your timetable. Sounds too good to be true, because it just happens a lot. But
Right.
it's just something that I try to keep in mind, so that we just got out of a kind of a traffic jam with our scheduling, where we had a job that got severely delayed, and it kind of caused a little bit of a pile up because we were trying to move other jobs forward and switch things around, and just the mental stress that caused for probably about a month. It doesn't have to be anybody's fault, but sometimes that does come with being a subcontractor, especially being in tile. We're one of the last trades on the site. So all of the delays and pressures that have been building up until that point kind of end up in our lap as some of the last people in.
And how do you manage those relationships going into it? I know you've been dealing with, I guess, the same group of contractors, but initially, let's say for that contractor that is in a situation where they've been doing work for themselves, they've been producing their own leads, and they're presented with the opportunity to work with contractors. How do you approach that to say, um, I wanna keep a certain level of control. That way, like you said, those pressures don't get dumped on me, and then I'm being overworked. Uh, things start getting out of my hand. Quality starts slipping. How would you advise somebody to manage that relationship?
Well, the first thing that I would tell myself, because of how often I fail at this, and my wife is the one that usually tries to be the voice of reason with me, and this is do not promise something you can't fulfill. Or maybe you could say, don't promise something that you shouldn't fulfill. If you don't have time to do something next week, don't tell them that you can get it done next week. And I'm terrible about that, because you're on a job and maybe they add this one little thing, or you get there and you find out that they're already behind and they need to try and get this done so that cabinets can come in or whatever. And you say, okay, well, I'll try and find a way to get that done for you. I am so bad at that. I say that all the time. I'll find a way. I'm pretty sure I just said that today on a phone call, and now you're bringing it up. I'll find a way to get that done for you. And for them, that works great. But for you, you add a couple of those on top of each other, and you can end up in that exact space that we were talking about mentally, where you're just completely overwhelmed. I don't have enough time. And so I think being reasonable with yourself as a business owner, especially with me, I'm the owner and I do all the installations with my wife. So I can only be in one place at once, and I have to remind myself of that often. If you have more crews, then you have a little bit more to play with as far as moving some things around. But if you're not reasonable with yourself, what your goals are, then you end up chasing them all the time. If you set that bar just a little too high, to where you feel like just all your evenings are spent on the paperwork side because you spent the whole day on the job site, and we end up working right through the weekends to try and keep up with the unreasonable schedule that you've set for yourself, it can very quickly become counterproductive.
Right. For family life and peace of mind. Now, one thing I noticed in that last statement was goals. Some companies' goals, some installers' goals is make money and go home as fast as possible. You definitely seem to have different goals and bigger goals. How you incorporate that, or how you keep that on the forefront of what you're doing on each project to say, hey, look, this is why we exist. This is why we're here. It's not just about the money. It's not just about me. It's not just about the customer. How do you tie that back into the everyday job?
Well, just being very clear on what the goals are for my family and what we want our business to serve, what purpose we want it to serve. We talked about mentioning quickly what our goals are. Me and my wife have been had the privilege of working in a lot of disaster relief efforts in different places of the world. The construction rebuilding work for when natural disasters hit. And we've done a lot of volunteer construction work in the years that we've been married, and we love that. It's so important to us. And for us, we want to be able to continue to do that. COVID has kind of thrown a little bit of a wrench in those gears for a little bit of time, but that will change hopefully soon, and we'll be able to get back to that. But we need our business to be able to support us, since that's what we've chosen to be our goal. So we need to, oftentimes we don't get a huge amount of notice when those needs arise, because natural disasters can pop up or whatever the case may be. And we want to be able to, we don't want to be so locked in that we can't go and do those things because we just have too much to do here. So we try and maintain a little bit stricter control on our scheduling, try not to get out too far ahead of ourselves with getting, months and months ahead. We find in our area, things change so much that trying to schedule beyond 6 or 8 weeks is just a little bit of an exercise in futility, because it just changes so much in that time. So we shorten how far out we plan work. We have a relationship with a lot of our builders that I've been very thankful for. They've been supportive of what we try to do. If we end up being gone for a few months at a time, we try and finish up all of our projects in a timely manner before then, so that we can be gone and then come back. So that just being our very specific goal, we do devote time to thinking about how do we make sure that not only is our business accomplishing that goal, but that it's also not preventing it in any way. And
Right.
if your goal is different, that would be the conversation you would have. Whatever this goal is, is my business or is my decisions, is my current situation working towards that goal, or have I kind of gotten wrapped up in lost? I know I've said these words before, but I think sometimes people's businesses can become this beast that has to be fed. Like you created it, and now you got to keep it going.
Right.
And it can take everything. And some guys love that. Some guys just that's their element. They love it. Just everything, energy all the time. And that's awesome. I tip my hat to those guys. They just take it all in stride and just keep moving. But if you have a different goal that you really want, whether it's to spend more time with your family or whether it's you wanted to own your own business so that you could control your schedule and have more time for whatever the other thing is that you wanted, just make sure it's being effective at that. Make sure that it's accomplishing that. And if it's not, maybe you need to look, is it still the most important goal? And if it is, what do you need to change? Because you don't want to have regrets. That's my big. I don't want to have regrets at the end of it. Like we come from I come from a younger generation. Some of our older, my grandparents, they worked their entire lives away. And that's oftentimes that you'll hear them lament that fact that they spent most of their youth. And of course they have a work ethic that we need more of today. It's not at all that you shouldn't work hard, but if you work your entire life away, but that wasn't your goal, then what if you regret it later? I would be so sad if that was the case for me. I don't want that to be the case for me or my wife.
Right. I think having that clear goal. I'm big on vision and purpose because it's important to know where you're headed and why you're headed there. I think that's a huge part of being effective, because you can think that you're effective, but if you're not reaching those milestones, reaching those points, you just did something. Like, and it may be something good, but it's not true effectiveness.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we talked about in our earlier conversation, I think one of the in the tile trade, one of the places that this little conundrum that we have really shines is with the CTI test. Because the goal of that test is to finish within the allotted time. That's it.
CTI.
That is the end of it, right? That's the goal. I'm going to finish this test in time. That's it. But we can spend so much time and energy, mental energy especially, trying to be as efficient as possible, that we end up we've run out of time, and then we rush to the end of it, and then if we don't pass, then all of our efforts for efficiency were ineffective. So
look, that's one of the things that I remember at my CTI that I missed by 4 points. Definitely gonna take
so close. You got it for sure next time. 4 points is easy.
Look, I could have got it last time, but I didn't. One of the things that was stressed, that it doesn't have to look pretty, because like you said, the goal is to finish and to pass.
Yeah.
If you get 90% the way through and it's pretty, you missed the mark. Like, you didn't accomplish what you came to accomplish.
Yeah, so it's like a little mini case study on this difference if that happens to you.
That's a perfect example, because there's many people that don't make it through, that on a job site would be efficient and effective, but for this task, it's just being able to keep that at the forefront and say, hey, I came here for a specific reason. This is why I'm here. I need to get this done.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's get into like job site. What is some of little tile guide techniques that keep you as efficient as possible with also being effective? I see you use a lot of Go Board. I checked out some of the posts, and like you said earlier, you're really clean, which I need a class in. Please teach me how to do this, because I'm when it comes to cleanliness, my mindset is effectiveness. I didn't come here to be clean. I get the So give us some techniques so people can understand. Of course, they can't see it, they can't live it, but some things that work in your favor when you walk onto a project.
Well, for me personally, being clean is that saying like clean is smooth and smooth is fast. I have always been that way from when I first started. I don't like getting stuff on me. I don't want my tools to have stuff on them, and not because I have that personality quirk, more because I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to clean it up afterwards. I want to move on to something else, and so that helps me. But I've also worked alongside a lot of guys that did not care at all if they were covered in thin set from head to toe. And I make fun of them and tell them it looks like they lost a fight with their mud bucket. And but some of them do really amazing work. I mean, they spend the time and get it cleaned up afterwards, and I feel like they're wasting time. But at the end of the day, if we both take a picture of our work and it looks amazing, it's working for them. And a lot of them, they might look at what I do, trying to take the time to be clean, and they may think that that's really inefficient. They think I'm wasting time. But it works for me. It helps me to be fast. I am the one coming back to grout, so I got to do the cleaning if I'm coming back, and I just don't want to. I don't want to deal with that. So for me, being clean is the most efficient way I found to work and to succeed. Another thing that I found that we talk specifically about Go Boards, since they're taking care of us today on this show. What I have found for myself is that sometimes locking into one brand specific system all the way through presents some inefficiencies. Maybe this system isn't the best solution for this project, and now, like you said, I gotta find another one. I gotta find something else. So I have found, for me, the most efficient way to be productive is to have one set of products that I can do 99% of my projects with. I don't have to find another solution. I can do it with these products. And that goal that's what's kept me in packing mud pans. I still haven't made the switch because no matter what the shape, size of the shower is, I can do it with a mud pan. And I've been doing it for all these years, so I can do it quickly, and I don't have to stock anything else. I can just stock my mud, and I know I can do it. Then with GoBoard, I have found that is the best product that I have used for being able to build anything that comes up on site. Different shapes of showers. I built a tub this year, a full Roman tub out of nothing but GoBoard. Just all this custom stuff comes up, and 99% of the time I can build it with GoBoard. And sometimes for the really fancy stuff, I do add another waterproofing layer with paint-ons to just more against user error. But so much of the time I can just do it with GoBoard, and that's why I use it. All right. I love the folks over there. I've talked to them extensively through the last few years. But even if I didn't have that relationship with them, I would be buying it and using it on every one of my projects that I could, because it works for me so well. And I do that with all of my products. I just want them to work 99% of the time so that I don't have to spend the time trying to find something else. And I've struggled myself with the banding, just like you said. I'm not that great with that either, especially being so picky about being clean, like trying to keep all those layers super clean. I'd drive myself crazy and waste so much time doing that.
Look, I'm the type that I don't worry about that part of it. I got people that comment all the time that was like, Carl joked with me on my last shower and was like, next shower I'm gonna send you a bucket and some sponges.
Yeah.
It's like, there's the installers that are wiping the joint clean and just,
Yeah, that's me. That's me.
I can't say that. I mean, the time is being spent either before or after. Or underneath the job, I can see if it's on my floor, I'm definitely wiping that. If it's on my tools, I'm probably gonna wipe it, depending on what incident I'm working with. But it's just those things. It's just like, is this holding me back, or is it keeping the job going forward?
Yeah, and that is what's most important, right? I mean, if it works for you, I think we get into that a lot especially on social media. We're also quick to say, well, this is how you should be doing this. Like, this is it works for me, so it must be the best solution for everybody. And whether we say it that way or not, we end up leaving comments like that. But if it works for you and doesn't work for me, then you should be the one doing it, and vice versa. If you're really trying to succeed in whatever your goal is for that project, you got to do what works for you.
I noticed on one of your posts, since you mentioned doing mud beds on everything, I noticed that there was either training or something that I saw you, practicing on a mud pan. What was that event that you went to?
I did go to Schluter did a training course in South Carolina at the CTAF facility that was specifically, it was a special event specifically geared to incorporating Schluter with mud beds.
Gotcha.
And in situations where you didn't want to use one of their foam trays. And, we hands down have to give Schluter their credit for how much training they do. So I've been doing mud pans since I was a kid. Since I was 15, 16, I was mixing mud for that. That's how I've always been around doing floors, and I have tried the different foam pans, and I have nothing against them except for the fact that I'm not as fast with them, and I can't use them for every project. So I stick with what works for me.
Now, tool setup. You using I'm assuming that you're gonna be snapping stuff. There are people that are using grinders for cuts on insides with weld tails, setting their saw up in the room with them. What's your tool setup like?
We being here in Western North Carolina, we get a long period of really good weather, and we do usually set up outside if the weather is good for it. Um, Usually we would only go through the trouble of trying to do dust management and do all of that inside if either the weather was bad or if we're going up way too many stairs. And I have to give that all of that credit to my wife, because she usually is the one running back and forth to the saw and out to mix mud. She does that all day for me.
Shout out to Mrs. Ledbetter.
Absolutely, Brianna, she is tireless when it comes to running back and forth for me to get this and that. She does it all day, and she's been doing it with me long enough now that she gets it before I ask for it. She's the best helper I've ever had, and I would say that even if I didn't know she was going to hear this later.
Oh, that's a huge part of the system. Like that's a huge part of the system to
Yeah.
have an in sync partner that
Oh
is
yeah.
a step ahead of you to say, "Hey, look, I can be on this side of the wall. You can be on that side of the wall. By the time you get here, I'll be on another wall. We'll keep rolling."
Yeah, she has definitely made me both more efficient and more effective, and she has the mindset to want to make that happen, and that's, I think, the hardest thing to find sometimes these days. I have had quite a few guys working for me at different times. I've had multiple crews, and we've just in this endless desire to work on our goals and efficiency versus effectiveness, making sure we're being as good as we can. We've ended up being just back to just the two of us. It works well for us. Our goal of being able to leave for months at a time is difficult when you have other people relying on you to supply their work. So it wasn't working towards our goal, and then we've ended up back to just the two of us, and we enjoy it. It doesn't work for everybody. I know a lot of couples say that would probably be the end of their marriage if they tried to work full time together.
I,
But
I
it
would
works
I
for
would
us.
be willing to try it. I don't know how it's gonna work out, but I would be willing to try it.
It works for us. We love it.
My wife would probably end up like, "Nah, I can't work with him." I put all the blame on me. Um, but that's definitely a huge point, because I myself, I do not have the instinct partner. I had a helper that was getting into the trades. He wanted to learn, but at the time I couldn't keep him busy enough to
Mm.
expect him to deal with the roller coaster of the schedule. So I'm back to just me, which is what brought the topic up, because it's like, how do I get back to where I was with a helper by myself? That was the mindset. Like I can't afford to slow down, which I really can, because it's like, all right, I slow down. I see where I'm good at. I see how to plan out a job better. instead of just being able to show up and be like depending on somebody that, hey, go run the cuts, go grab that tool, get everything set up. I'm gonna be inside. So now it's forcing me to be more effective in planning.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked by myself for years before I got married, and it definitely is a different approach to everything. You do have to spend time thinking about being efficient because you don't want to waste your efforts. But if you ask yourself how am I going to maintain the same pace as when I had a helper, the answer is you're going to kill yourself.
That's what it's still.
and
That's
and
what.
that if you're and then you get back to talking about goals. If your goal is to be in business for a long time, can you burn yourself out like that? Is it going to be effective at that goal of being a successful business for a long time in your area? No. If you burn yourself out, then you have to slow way down.
Right.
And you may have been done all of that in the name of being more efficient, but if it didn't accomplish your goal of being successful in your business for a long time, then it's not effective anymore. And I've been there. We sounds like we're similar, that I will absolutely do that to myself. I would drive myself right into the ground trying to be faster, trying to get more done. And yeah, that burnout is a real thing, especially now with all the weird pandemic stuff. The supply is hard to get, and just all this extra pressure.
I
Just kind
think
of got
that
added on.
the demand is a part of that because uh these just don't stop. Like
Yeah,
people just, hey, the next person wants. I want a shower done. I want my floor removed and replaced. And again, you can easily get into that area to say, I can squeeze this in. When realistically, you shouldn't. You
yeah,
might be able to, but you shouldn't. So now you uh fill up a day that could have been spent on the business. That's
sure.
going to get you 10 steps ahead, but you're so focused on, I got to be on the job. I got to get this. I can't let a lead slip through my hands. Um, and then, like you said, now you're being counterproductive because a day in the office will get you way ahead, being able to plan and map things out instead of just showing up to a job site because people want you.
Yeah, and even just maintenance on your company. I get home at the end of the day and I look at my shop and just like I'm not that kind of person. My shop is a mess, and I
That's
hate
the
that.
same way.
I'm not that kind of person. Everything has a place in my shop to be perfectly put away. And so then, we get into this whole thing, this conversation with yourself. Like, I need to be more efficient so that I have time to come home and get my shop back in order. And because how good would that be for your business if you could have a whole afternoon with nothing to do but make your shop in a better space than it is now? You'll be able to find things easier. You'll be able to see what you have and not waste, and you'll be able to have cleaner mental space. But how many of us get time to do that? I'm the reason I have so much information on this subject is because of the amount that I research it, because I'm so terrible at it.
Yeah. But I mean, that part of it is important because you said the evening. What if we had an entire day?
Right?
What if
How cool would that be?
barbershops, they don't work on Mondays? What if we had every Monday to say, you know what? I get to work on the business. I get to organize my trailer that needs to be organized. I get to clean up the shop, spend the rest of the day responding to emails, um, keeping my CRM in line, refreshing my email marketing. So now I don't have to do these things uh, Tuesday through Friday evenings. I did it on Monday. It's being able to do those kind of things for our business and for our companies that's true efficiency. That's true effectiveness. Say, hey, look, it seems like another task, but it's not taking me away because I'm just devoting time to it.
Yeah. Yeah, we can gain a lot by getting time for stuff like that, to make sure that we're being effective, to make sure that we are working towards our goals, and doing it in a good mental space, not feeling rushed through the whole thing. And it's so easy to just say, well, I don't have time for that. That's why my trailer is a mess. My truck needs new tires and an oil change, and my shop is a mess. But I don't have time because I get home after dark, everywhere's closed, and all I can do is, eat and spend time with, whatever, the family, the kids, whatever you have, and then I got to get up and do it all over again. That's my life. But if we own the company, then we do have a choice. We just don't always give it to ourselves.
Right. We think that I can't tell the world I don't work on Mondays.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. We feel like, and I can be my own case study for that. Because if you think about, could you go to the builders or the homeowners that you have and say, look, me and my wife like to do some missionary work. I need to be gone for 2 months. I'm sorry that would affect our ability to do your project. Like I would say there's no way you could ask that. You'd never work again.
yeah.
But it's worked for us literally probably a dozen times. People have been so accommodating. They're so appreciative of what we're trying to do, and they've helped us make it work every time. We've never had to turn down the possibility of doing stuff. So it worked, and I didn't think it would. I wouldn't have thought it would. And that's the same thing with all of that. If you need it, then you should make it happen. If you work for someone else, if you're a sub and your truck's a mess or your shop's a mess, whatever it is, and you say, look, I need it a Friday afternoon. I have to do it. I need to spend it on my company and get it back to running clean and smooth so that I can be more prepared to take on, because that's what my goal is to do this long term. I need to function sustainably, and I need an afternoon to devote to just that process. It's not very efficient if you're just looking at how much work can I pack into this week.
Right.
But if it's accomplishing your goal of being successful long term, then it is effective. And that was the main goal of this whole thing, was that sometimes we do have to give up some efficiency to be effective.
So since we made it to that point, let's hop back on the Go Board train. Because they're it's an amazing company, it's an amazing product, and I've seen the increase of, I'm gonna just use the word speed because that's what we were looking for a lot of times. But in addition to speed, I've seen the difference of firmness from the boards, the flexibility of having 10 different alternative sealants to use, to where now you're not in a crunch with like some other brands that, hey, you have to use this sealant or you have to use this type of thin set or whatever for waterproofing. Go Board allows you, I think it's 10 different sealants that you can use for seams, for your screw holes. How has that worked out for you? Because I'm a big fan. I've only used Go Board on one project, but it was like night and day with other ones. And the price is, you can't beat the price.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, you really can't. And for what you're getting too. And again, I'm not just saying that. I have gone through pallets of Go Board this year already. And I use so much of that stuff, and the rigidity is a big thing for me because that's what makes it more versatile.
Yeah.
I've always just bugged me being able to the movement that you can get out of some of the other boards has always and when you're trying to do some really custom things, like Go Board screws to itself like no other board on the market that I've been exposed to.
Yeah.
Some of the cementitious based foam boards, they tend to crumble on the edge when you try and do that. And then some of the membrane based boards, the foam isn't dense enough to really bite a screw. So building custom niches, custom benches, you don't need to screw it together. You can use the sealant. But when I make my niches and things like that, it helps a lot to be able to screw it on the backside while everything dries. And it changes things because now I don't have to wait for it to dry for it to hold its shape and be able to install it. And just that versatility is why I choose Go Board over all the other boards that I've tried.
Another thing that I've noticed about Go Board is, like you were saying about, you know how sometimes when you cut certain boards, depending on how you cut them, if the membrane peels, it'll start pulling off. Like GoBoard doesn't do that. Like you don't have the option to pull anything.
No, it is that fiberglass fleece is on there.
Yeah.
And I think the new product doesn't have the fiberglass in it, which I know it didn't really matter to me, but there were some people that felt that was very important. So props to them for solving that problem for their users. The new board doesn't have the fiberglass edge that the old one had.
I haven't had the chance to get my hands on the pro version, which wasn't a pain point for me because the fiberglass didn't really bother me.
Yeah,
Now,
me
when
neither.
it got on me, it did, but it wasn't enough to frustrate me on a job site. It wasn't enough to stop and make me want to go wash my arms or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then
I
after,
carry I just keep baby powder in my truck and I use it in the morning if I am going to be using GoBoard, and it honestly doesn't even I don't usually notice any discomfort from it. I do know though that some guys found that a lot more frustrating. Some people maybe more it bothers them more. Maybe it's more severe of a reaction for them. So
so you
they
put baby
are.
powders like just rubbing it on your arms and neck or anything like that.
Yeah, well, I just put it on my arms, my forearms, like where you rest the go board when you're carrying it. That's an old trick from doing fiberglass insulation. The
Yeah.
guys always use baby powder for that. So I just learned that from them, and it works a treat for me. And it just didn't really ever bother me. And even if it did, now you have an option where you don't have the fiberglass in it, and you get the same benefits as the go board. But the the beefiness that I feel when I build stuff out of it
Yeah.
is awesome. I love it, and I don't get paid to say that. So I
Right.
just love
Right.
using it. I use it every day in the trenches. Like I build with this stuff. I don't just have I don't just buy it for someone else. And I've tried every one that I'm aware of existing. And when you take all of that and then you add the fact that sometimes, especially if you buy it in bulk, you can almost half the cost
Yeah.
of other boards than it that is efficient and effective.
Look, I was about to say for business wise, that's being efficient and effective.
Yeah.
You know, on hand, you don't have to worry about waiting on it. And the price point just keeps those profit margins as high as possible. Um, have you had a chance to use the point drain system?
I have. Yeah, I actually worked with Dwayne, who works on the manufacturing side in the lab of GoBoard on that system. Many years ago at Coverings, we sat down and talked about the initial phases for that and his implementation of it. It works really well. The wedge idea solves a lot of problems for foam board for foam pans. As far as their versatility, because I think that right now that is the downside to foam pans is they're just not very versatile. If it's a weird shape, if it's not level, then you
I mean,
have to.
there's built with foam options that you can get custom pans, which I again one of those things that I haven't had the chance to get my hands on. I just hadn't made it a point to get my hands on. But with a lot of foam pans, this is just my personal experience. I'm I always run into there needing to be some kind of doctor. Once you
Yeah,
put membranes on it, once you put the drain flange on it, there's always some points that are low. You need to manipulate them, get them to where they're perfect for certain mosaics, certain pebbles or penny rounds, whatever it is, and it could be uh, not efficient. So
yeah.
the time that you're investing in fixing a pan, you could have been done what you do, and the pan is ready to go. That's if you are an amazing mud pan.
Well,
But
that's been the same experience for me. That I know some guys that use those pans very successfully, and good for them. And those that are producing them, it was made to fill a hole in the trades that not everyone has been taught how to do a mud pan. I had that benefit, and I've been doing it for so long that it only takes me and Brianna about half an hour to pack most of our pans. And as soon as it's going to take longer than that to do some doctoring on the foam pans, then it doesn't seem to be worth the 3, 4, 500 time price increase over buying mortar mix.
Right.
For me, it did not prove effective for what I wanted to do.
I've seen some. There was a picture that I looked on online that I was going to use like for a background that it would just wasn't working out for the ad that I put up yesterday. But it was like this huge go board shower from floor to ceiling. Uh, I didn't see the finished product of it, but it
That
seemed like
was it on John's Manville web, like one of their pages, or
this was on your page.
it might have been one of mine. I've
Yeah,
done some pretty massive go board showers.
this was on your page.
Mhm.
Um, So how did you get introduced to Go Board? Like how did the first job or you getting your hands on the start?
No, I think that it may have started that year in Orlando when I sat down with Dwayne and the rep at the time. He doesn't work there anymore. Um, and I think I sat down with them at their booth at Coverings for 3 or 4 hours, and we talked about the problems of foam pans, and they were interested in building one out of their material because the density that they achieve with their foam is awesome, and it felt like it would solve some of the issues. So that's where that wedge system was born, is us discussing the ways we could overcome the problems that foam pans had. And that whole conversation, just the desire that they had to come out with a good product that was actually going to work, it got me interested in them as a company. And so I had GoBoard available to me at the time, and I started using it and ended up just bringing it in by the pallet from then on, because it was cheaper and it was a better product, so it didn't seem to have a downside for me, especially since the itch didn't bother me that bad.
Look, I look forward to doing some big projects with Go Board like you have, or just any project like you have, just to get on this level. I'm always looking up to uh the big little tall guys in the industry.
Me
Um,
too. There, no matter how much experience you get, there's always someone way above you to learn from.
and I'm always looking to learn methods that's going to increase my efficiency. So I'm always looking at these guys that's cranking out work, and I if you see me in these groups, I'm constantly asking questions to be like, hey man, how do you go about doing this? How do you go about doing that? And of course, everybody's response is go work for somebody. Like, all right, well, answer my question, but I nonetheless look up to all of you guys in these groups. Um, I'm thankful for companies like GoBoard, for the NTCA that's always increasing what we do, improving what we do to to make our jobs better, to make the industry better, to allow us to make more money, to offer a better service to our customers. Um, I think it's a great opportunity, and being able to cover topics like this to share with other people on how to not only improve efficiency and effectiveness on the job site, but to do it for the entire brand, for the entire company, which is really the most important part. I think that we definitely covered the topic. Um, we had a few people trickle in. Oakley Corbin in the beginning said that he started flooring tile with his dad, and that was is his only job as well, which is unique. Oakley was on a show a couple months or a couple weeks back. Amazing tile installer. I feel like all of you guys are people that I can look up to because one of these days I'll be installing like y'all. We covered the topic. If you don't have anything else to speak on efficiency and effectiveness, please give everybody your handles. This is to the time to plug the little tile guy. Let everybody know where they can find you, how they can look you up, how they can follow you, and how they can keep tabs on you. And hopefully, we'll get somebody to get a job when you do a job with you when you have the time, because I know you're.
Yeah, all right. Well, I have pretty much little tile guy across all the platforms. So that's my Facebook little tile guy. Instagram is where I post most of my work. We do have a website, littletileguy.com, that's more for local if you are looking for work done. And I think the best way to keep tabs on all the tile work that's being done is to keep up with shows like this one, all the work that's being done on these podcasts that help keep us together, even when we don't get to see each other as much as we normally do. Hopefully that'll change soon, but until then, appreciate you letting me come on here with you. I had fun. It's always
Absolutely.
nice to talk shop.
Oh, look, absolutely. If you ever need to link up with somebody that could probably use some organization because we're overworking, just hit me up because I'm definitely that guy. Uh, I appreciate you being on the show. I just like to leave people with a couple of takeaways. We like to encourage. We want to encourage everyone out there, everyone that's listening, everyone that will listen to this episode. Just be mindful of crossing over from effectiveness to efficiency, and not letting it become being counterproductive. Um, a good takeaway is keep your goals in front of you. Keep your company goals in front of you. Even if you're an organization that is big, that has crews, keep your goals in front of your crews to say, hey, this is why we're doing this. This is why we're on this job site. This is what we want to accomplish, and not let it be always focused on a dollar sign. Keep those goals in front of you. If you're a small crew, if it's just you, make sure you know why you started, why you exist, where you're trying to go. That way you can maximize on your effectiveness and also incorporate that efficiency into it. Um, do not promise something that you can't provide.
Or shouldn't.
Yeah, or you shouldn't be providing. Don't bite off more than you can chew, because it can burn you. It can it can take away from your productiveness, and you might not see it. It may take those dollar signs out of your pockets. So be mindful of the things that you take on, the things that come across your plate. Everything is not for every company. Do not jump on every train that pulls up to the station. If it's not for you, let it pass and let the next company take it on. Thank y'all for tuning in to the Floor Masters podcast. Please go subscribe. We would love to get more engagement and more listeners, more followers. We're on all platforms. This episode will be published on the following Thursday, and be on the lookout for the next episode after this one, which is going to be another episode on efficiency with IQ. So we're talking about how to maximize on some more efficiency if that's what you're focused on. Um, thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for everything, for all being a fan. If you haven't had a chance to go to our website, thefloormastersmerch.com, so you can pick up some of these t-shirts and some gear to support the show, so we can keep providing you this amazing uh, experience, please do so. Until next time, we are signing out. Oliver, again, thank you for checking into the show, and I will talk to you soon.
Awesome.